Uh-oh. Hey, it's me, Shawnee, and it is Money Monday. And since, it's President's Day, I need to make sure I go ahead and give you some of these here President's Day. So open up your spiritual purse, your actual purse, your wallet, because I know now we have some guys, some sirs, not just sis, hanging out with us. And I'm going to give you some money, honey, okay? If you've already done something to add some value to your purse, go ahead and drop it inside of the comment section, sis, so that we can see that you've been getting to the money. So what songs have you been paying your bills to? Here goes some money for you, sis. I want to make sure that money flows to you easily and effortlessly all week long. All right, so today here's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about whether or not if debt causes divorce. So I want you to drop your opinion in the comment section, because I'd like to know if you think that debt eventually leads to divorce. I'd like to see your opinion. Now, of course, I'm not having this conversation by myself. I'm actually having this conversation with Dr. Dani. Dr. Dani actually works with couples when it comes to building healthier marriages. And me, myself, I help my clients, both individuals and couples, create money goals so that they can get to their new homes, so that they can get to their new cars, so that they can fund their businesses in a way that they can transfer a legacy. Okay, I'm also going to drop a few links over inside of the comment section. So if you have any questions about improving your credit score, or if you had set some goals for the beginning of the year to get better with your budget, to start getting closer to home ownership, you can book a free 15-minute session inside of the comment section. Okay, but for those of you who've been following up with the series all month long, we have been talking about couples in cash, how to deal with money when you're mating, how to deal with money in a marriage. Okay, so we're going to bring Dani on and we're going to get to the questions. Of course, if you have any questions as it relates to sharing money while you're dating, sharing money in a marriage, sharing money as a couple, then drop those questions in the comment section. All right, Dani, let's bring you on because I'm ready to have this conversation. All right. Hey, girl, hey. How are you? I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well. So I know that you have been working with a lot of couples over the years. And how frequently do you have to deal with couples that come in arguing specifically about money?
Very often, like
This is
on a
Yeah,
consistent.
this is a regular scheduled thing that couples come in having disagreements about their dollars.
Yeah.
If you can share, like, what are they normally kind of arguing about? What is kind of like what the frustration is about?
So the frustration is usually about a difference in opinions as it pertains to their relationship with money, right? How should it be used? How should it be spent? How should it be saved? And oftentimes they come into these relationships not even thinking about some of the things that maybe their parents or their family systems have taught them about money or passed down to them. And they just try to create something new without thinking about how are we going to co-create this new space together and implement some new patterns and new systems to keep us on a consistent basis of just being financially stable, having financial fortitude, and just being smart about our relationship with money.
Would you say that of all of the disagreements that couples come in with, would you say money is in the top of it, or are there typically other challenges that couples are dealing with? Where does it fall?
Yeah, so money actually falls hand in hand with communication, right? So a lot of times what you'll find is people are a little private about their finances. And you start to really find out things as you peel back the layers as you move forward. So it's communication, money, intimacy. Those are like the three things that I would say are like the top areas that couples come in complaining about. Things usually shift over time. So over the years, your partner shifts. After a while, you have to learn to relearn them as a different person, because every 5 to 10 years they're changing and shifting in and out of who you met. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. So what you're saying is the top three things that you typically have to counsel your clients on is number one, communication. They don't really know how to communicate with each other in an effective way. The
Yeah.
other one is sex.
Mhm.
Yes. So they have issues as it relates to connecting sexually.
Absolutely.
And then the third one is going to be some disconnection as it relates to money. Do you also find that the couples who have issues with communication also have issues with sex and also have issues with money? Do they all kind of like, or do they just have like one issue? Or normally when they come in, it's like, it's the whole shebang.
So everything is connected. Everything is interconnected. If you cannot communicate effectively to your partner, then how can you show up as your full self sexually? Or how can you show up as your full self as a responsible partner as it pertains to the finances? So you really have to be comfortable communicating with your partner and being seen, being vulnerable, being emotionally, spiritually, and physically naked with them.
Got it. So that's one of the things that I actually see with my clients, and you can tell me if this is something that you experience. But oftentimes what I'll see is I can get a couple, and because and this has happened a few times in the decade of me working with couples as it relates to their cash goals. And sometimes when I get up under it, I will find a few different scenarios where a couple, few times I've seen this statistically, where if the male is not as responsible with money, then the woman in the relationship will begin to withhold sexually. Do you find that happening too? Yes.
So
yes.
I call it, I see it as a form of emotional abuse. I know we don't talk about that a lot, but withholding that, right, without coming out and saying, hey, this is where I'm not okay. Like, this really bothered me when you failed to do this or follow through on this. And that's why I feel a little distant right now. I'm not really intimate because of these things.
So that lady say, I feel a little distant because of the dollars.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so
say
that again.
I was gonna say, Jasmine Sullivan said it on her newest album.
What's it said?
One of the things, it was about money making a woman just aroused. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a partner who knows how to, take charge in those areas or knows how to hold the fort down and stuff like that. For some women is a turn on. So yeah.
Yeah, because provision is directly, linked in. When someone feels provided for, they feel protected, then certainly that sexual expression is going to go higher. So in your tenure of working with couples and their cash and money and marriages and all these different things, how often do you see that once you continue to communicate with them and they're coming to their sessions, that you're able to help them create some new patterns? How frequently do you see people actually change and then create new patterns?
Yes, on a frequent basis. So usually what they have to do is they really have to be self-aware and self-accountable. And they have to be like comfortable with looking at themselves, like saying, what I'm doing is not okay. A lot of times people become defensive, but that's also a part of communication. If you're using certain strategies of communication, they automatically make a person feel like they're on the defense. But if you can implement some new strategies, they'll be more receptive, and the way that your words land on them won't impact them in that way.
Okay, so you have seen in some cases where you're working with a couple 30, 60, 90 days that some of them are very dedicated to their marriage, that they begin to take on some new habits.
Yes.
Now, yes, you've seen that. Okay. I often see my clients that come in working together. I think after a while of allowing mathematics to address some of the madness, I'm able to see them get different behavior. So sometimes I'll do like a test out with them. Like sometimes I'll have couples that come in that absolutely refuse to put all of their money in one banking account. They absolutely refuse. They have created so much distrust. the communication is so defunct that they just refuse to put their money in one account together. They just refuse to do it. So sometimes I'll have a test out with them. Well, that'll be one of their assignments, because it's one thing to offer verbal apologies, right? But it's a whole nother thing when you start offering over behavioral changes that begin to impact your budget. So I'll do a test out with them for 30 days. Like, hey, I know you guys are very, very uncomfortable with putting your money in the same account, but let's try that for 30 days. And what seems to happen is another space of accountability begins to come in. And you know what I see happen? I see the couple save more money together. I see those, I see them, Now, are there typically some type of communication, issues? Do they fight? Do they fuss? Do they start to kind of like pick apart at each other in terms of who went to Amazon, who went to Chick-fil-A, how many shoes you bought? Sometimes that does come in to the scenario, but over a period of time of creating some direct goals, I'm able to see them create their dollars. Marriage still is one of the key factors to building wealth. It is still one of them. Yes, it is. It is right up there with entrepreneurship. So when you can create new habits with your partner, it definitely creates, it gives you more opportunity to get to your wealth goals a lot sooner. Now, I also find with my clients when they have taken some of the behaviors from their childhood into the way that they relate to cash. Now, tell me about some scenarios where you've kind of seen people have some very interesting relationships with their cash, and then they got it from their childhood. What do you see happen?
Yeah, so absolutely. Sometimes you see people stashing money and not really telling their partner about it. Sometimes you see people sort of perpetuate this really unhealthy habit as it pertains to paying down their debt, just kind of letting things sit there over the years, and eventually it'll fall off. Just various patterns. And oftentimes they don't talk about it up front. And these things seep its way into, like what you said, if they have a joint account, you'll notice those same patterns take place if they don't address it and share this with their partner and explain why they move in certain ways.
Okay, so for those of you that are tuned in, I want you to drop in the comment section whether or not if you are an emotional spender or are you a strategic spender. Are you an emotional spender or are you a strategic spinner? Are you one of those people who set goals, but let's say your girlfriend says, hey, let's go on a girls trip, and all of a sudden that's gone? Do you say, hey, this is my savings goal, I'm not going to eat out for a month, I'm not going to eat out for 2 months or whatever it is, and then next thing you know, friend invites you out, bam, there goes your savings, there goes that. So when you start working with that, now what do you see in relationships where you have one person that's a hardcore emotional spender, and then you have another person that's super strategic when it comes to money? How do you begin to help them blend their behaviors so that they work?
Right. So first of all, I think it's really important to talk about the fact that there are, in fact, some mental health disorders as well as emotions that can be connected to spending, right? So if a person has anxiety or depression or certain, behaviors that are linked to where they're at emotionally, it will be more frequent that you will see that person struggling. So I think first the partner has to understand what the antecedent to that is. Like, where did this start? What usually triggers them to start this pattern, and how would they like their partner to show up? Okay, if you see me about to make a decision, I really need you to step in and kind of ask me some questions around this spending choice, because that will help me not make a decision based on my emotions, but to be more strategic. And I think that when we allow ourselves to be in that vulnerable space, that allows for more growth in that area. So I really encourage them to turn towards each other and have that conversation.
Mm-hmm. How do you encourage whereas like financial avoidance? Because I know that's one of the things that I see in many of the couples where, because it's one of those things that neither of them perform well, they typically just avoid this conversation altogether. What do you see happens through avoidance?
Yes. So usually through avoidance, that just usually means they could have come from a family where the boundaries were very, very just closed or rigid. They didn't really see their parents talk about money. Maybe they weren't included in some of the planning and the financial decisions that took place. So they don't even really know how to have that conversation. So we can use the therapy room as a safe space to kind of peel back the layers around that and start to open up dialogue around those things.
Yeah, so I really like that suggestion. So if you're kind of noticing that, hey, every time I talk to my mates about money, they get mad with me. Every time that I get like an overdraft protection notice, or if I allow them to use my credit card and my debit card and I said, hey, it's okay if you spend this amount, but you go ahead and spend an additional $30, $50, $80, $100, or, those things happen when I'm working with my clients. That happens very frequently. So one of the ways that you're recommending, if you're noticing that this is something that the person is avoiding, then that is an indication that you will need some therapy, right? Maybe you should communicate with that partner and say, hey, let's go ahead and communicate. But Dani, what happens when the person's avoidance is so thick, like it's so thick that despite, it's the behavior is consistent, the behavior is consistent, those extra Amazon packages, loaning money to family members, putting things on your credit card, going into the savings when it wasn't approved, those type of, financial infidelities do happen. I see them happen with my clients all the time. So you're recommending, number one, go to therapy. But what if the person is so avoidant that they're refusing to go to therapy? How do you begin to kind of like soften that dialogue so that it doesn't create distance within the relationship? How can you have another layer of dialogue? What would you say?
Perhaps even having someone that they would be receptive to. So if they don't feel safe, because there are some people who are just not ready for therapy yet. They're not trusting of that atmosphere. So maybe having someone who they trust, who they'll listen to, and trying it from that angle might be the best option at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do like that. So, so some of the things that you're noticing, that if you're noticing that your mate is financial avoidant, they will not talk to you about money. In fact, if they start to talk to you, you start talking with them about money, they begin to get mad with you. They hide their money. They don't share it with you. When the tax return comes, they get their portion. Like those are all behaviors. Those are all behaviors that I've seen happen with couples. So you're saying one way to remedy this is to get in therapy. If you notice, hey, therapy is not something this person wants to do, they're so financially avoidant that they're not going to come to therapy, So now maybe what we can do is we can seek out the most financially responsible person that we know. Maybe it's a brother, maybe it's a sister, maybe it's a cousin, right? So go ahead and say, hey, we have these goals and we just can't get there. Can we begin to have you as an accountability partner? I really like that. And a third one that I would recommend after you try therapy, they say no. The second one, if you say, let's talk to the sister, the brother, the cousin, the dad, let's talk to them, they say no, I would recommend reading a book together.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
It causes connection. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love
yeah.
that.
I would recommend that. Now, because I know that when you're, finances is like how you grow, your money will speak to whether or not if you and your partner are able to get together and buy one property, are you and your partner able to get together and buy multiple properties? Can you guys work together and save? Can you guys work together and, eliminate debt? Can you guys kind of have goals bigger than what's in front of you and kind of get to another place? That is the beauty of a healthy partnership, that now you not only have one side rolling, but now you have both sides rolling. So when those dynamics with your dollars are kind of off, it creates individual stagnation, and it definitely creates it for the family. So we did share some tools with you tonight in hopes of being able to, if you're in a relationship with someone that's financially avoided, Dani, one of the interesting things that I would like you to kind of talk about just a little bit is that the person isn't avoiding you.
Right, not at all.
Yeah.
No, they're not avoiding you. Because here's the thing, when we bring to the light some of the things that a person could possibly work on, you know, that makes them feel a little shame comes up, right? You know, maybe they didn't want you to take notice of that, and it's just seeping out, you know? And so they then have to look at themselves, and that's not always an easy process. So it's not you particularly. That's why I think, like you said, it's great to like read a book together or do something together so that you're kind of taking the one down and saying, hey, love, I would like to learn more about this. Would you mind joining me in this journey? You know, so that it doesn't place too much guilt on them and make them feel shameful of their areas of growth in that area.
All right. For those of you that are tuned in to Money Monday, we do hope that you were able to pick up some tips that can assist you with, you know, staying clear of a divorce and being able to actually join your dollars. Dani, you were exceptionally helpful in talking about if you have a financially avoidant partner. Here are some of the things for those of you who were not taking notes. Here's some of the things that was recommended. Number one, go to therapy. Say, hey, we can't get anywhere. We've been put in this house on our vision board for the last 3, 5, 10 years, you know? So maybe at this point, our financial behaviors are so different that we can't get together and create something better, right? So we're gonna go ahead and say, hey, let's try to get into therapy. But let's say your partner says, nah, sis, I ain't going to no therapy. I'm not crazy, because, you know, oftentimes that is the thought process, you know, associated with talking out your problems. It links someone to feeling like I'm crazy, but not necessarily. Sometimes you need to be heard outside of yourself with someone like Dr. Dani. So you'll say, hey, let's go ahead and talk to a therapist. They go, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. The next thing to be is like find a family member, a sister, a brother, a cousin, an uncle, a friend, and see whether or not if they would be more open to having that conversation with someone in your family or someone in your friendship circle that has, you know, maybe they may not be the wealthiest person in the world, but maybe they have purchased a house. Maybe they have worked with their partner to get a decent savings amount. Maybe they have opened a business together. That way they can become accountability to you. But let's say that partner says, nah, sis, I do not want people in our business. I don't want them asking us our credit score, how much money we got. That's not their business. What happens in our house stays in our house. Cool. Let's go ahead and move over to a money book, right? I actually have one. I know that the conversation, it says 10 things every woman should keep in her purse. Actually, I'm going to drop a link for this book. It's 10 things every woman should keep in her purse. But interesting enough, the reason why I wrote the title like that is because it's very simple, and it's actually something that you can read with your mate. It talks about getting rid of debt. It talks about paying off your credit cards. It talks about building your first budget. So, and even if this is not the book that you want to read, get a book that helps you to have a different dialogue about dollars with your partner. And then I think we had one more tip. What else? We got to the book. We talked about therapy. We talked about, what else did we have?
Reaching out to someone who is familiar, who they'll listen to.
Yeah, we covered that one. I think we gave you guys all the tips, okay? So in the comment section, we did give you guys the opportunity to, one, sign up for a free 15-minute consultation if you have specific questions. Dani, you can also drop your IG over there, because that's where we're getting ready to head. So if you thought about some questions that we didn't get answered, then head over to Purse Empowerment on IGTV, and we're gonna have some more of this conversation. Thank you guys. We'll be back next week talking about more money with your mate. So if you have some questions, just drop them in the comment section. You can get featured next week. Until next time, do something that's going to add value to your purse or your wallet. Holla!